All right, blessings, and welcome to the Legacy Ascending funding call. And I'm excited because tonight we're going to talk about how you could leverage your funding to actually get properties for under $10,000. So if you're new to us, Legacy Ascending is a creative finance company. And we focus on being able to leverage corporate credit into generational wealth. I don't think the slide went.
What's happening?
Oh, the slide didn't change.
Oh. What slide are we looking for? That's strange. Hello. Well, I was trying to get the recording to go to my desktop, but that's going to go to the cloud, I suppose. All right. There, it's working now.
Okay, there we go. So what we do is, like I said, is we help you to be able to not only get funding, but to put that funding into vehicles that can help generate generational wealth, and that you can also have as far as family assets. So we have talked about a lot of different opportunities over the call, different avenues, and you guys are more than welcome to go to our YouTube channel. You can look up Legacy Ascended on YouTube to be able to go through some of the other cash flow opportunities that we've talked about. But like I said, this evening, we're going to talk about how to generate income from real estate for properties that are under $10,000. And so we have a special guest with you guys for you guys tonight that we're going to be bringing on, that's going to be able to explain everything and break it down for you. So our process is really easy. If you need to get funding, you just need to have a FICO score of 685 or better. You need corporate clean credit, so no lates, different things like that. And then once you have that, can you go back to the other slide? Yep. Okay. So once you have that, it's really easy to apply. You're just going to go to the3scores.com. You're going to download your PDF FICO report, and then you're going to email that to funding@legacyascending.com. You're going to put your name, address, phone number, last four of social in the body of the email, as well as who invited you to Legacy Ascending. And from there, you'll have an answer in 72 hours or less, and you'll be able to get up to 100,000, and our average is about 50,000. So with that being said, without further ado, we're going to get into the meat. Why we're here tonight is to learn how we can get into real estate and get properties for under $10,000. And so I'm going. Miss Fancy is going to be letting us know how that process works and how we can seize this opportunity.
Thank you, Dazzle. How's everybody doing tonight? I am Fancy. Yes, I do have a government name, but everybody's not privy to that at the moment. And I'm going to be talking about tax sales. So let me share my screen. Let me see how I do that. Peace. Welcome. Sorry, I have like 3 different devices I'm trying to use in. Let's see here. Maybe that's it.
You got it. You got it.
I do, but I don't have my slides is the problem. I'm on this Chromebook and there we go. Boom. Okay. Can y'all hear me good?
Yep.
All right, perfect. All right, so Today, like I said, I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about tax sales, and I'll get into what all of that is. It's going to be a brief overview. So if you've never heard of this concept, it's okay if it goes over your head. I'm more than happy to answer questions. If you want any of my information right now, to any of my socials, the ones that I use right now, that OU Fancy, huh? Fancy with an X, and my business IG, that D leads. So, yes, I do tax sales. What are those? So, tax sales basically are instances where people do not pay their taxes on their real estate, on their properties, land, whatever. Everyone has to pay taxes on their property. When you do not pay the taxes on your property, what will happen is it will go to the county and they will basically foreclose on it and they will put it up for auction. You do not want that to happen. So a lot of people think or presume that because they pay their mortgage or their mortgage is paid off, that that's all they have to pay for the rest of their life. That's not true. You still have to pay your taxes. You don't pay your taxes, it will go to the auction.
Yeah, most people don't realize that the actual first in line, first in time lien against your property is not the bank. It's the county or whatever the government authority is that owns the land. You will never, ever, ever own your land. No one owns the land unless you're the county.
Exactly. Some other ones, that's a really good point, Mark. Some other entities that may have a lien priority or interest in your property could be, the government, the federal government. So child support can have a lien on it as well. The IRS may have a lien on it, but tax sales, they have a pretty, high priority as far as that hierarchy of liens. And that's why it's pretty much one of the safer investments, because when you get that property, even if that bank, that owner owes the bank, you don't have to deal with that issue. It's like, nope, I bought this property, with these for the back taxes, and you're the one still responsible for the mortgage. I don't have a contract with you whatsoever. Okay. You and what authority? I don't have any quote unquote authority, meaning I don't have a degree in this. There is no, tax sale investing, degree from Harvard. There is none of that. This is tried and true, experimental. I read a book. People say, do you take a seminar? Not really. I did it later on in life after I'd already started doing what I was doing, just to kind of get a little bit more confident and kind of build up, maybe some things that I wasn't aware of, but really I was already kind of doing it. So, that I don't really have any authority to do anything. I'm just kind of a, person that wanted to dive in like anybody else that wants to get into investing. And so that's really what I'm trying to encourage everybody else, that it's not one of those things that is such a huge leap to get into, like other things. And I've got receipts. So I'm not one of these people out here talking about things I haven't done before. Hopefully, you're not dealing with that. But I do feel like a lot of people on the internet, they kind of do a lot of talking about things, or they're reselling people's processes and courses. I've actually done the process. So that's what I'm here to talk about. And I don't claim to be an expert. There are things that you can do over and over again. And every time you do it, it's like a new learning process. This is not the same across the states, and this is not the same sometimes even between counties. So there are different rules, although the basic process is the same, which is you're going to go to the auction, you're going to buy it for the back taxes, but you may have to register, you may have to put a deposit down. You may collect interest on it, you may not, you may get the property, or you may just get your money back plus interest. So, there's a couple little nuances, but the basic premise is the same. Okay. All right. So I'm just kind of go over a brief overview as to how this process works. And I just kind of broke it down into a couple steps. So step one, you're going to find an auction. Pretty easy. Auctions are all over the place. Again, this is by states, by counties. The only thing is it may differ as to whether they're having it annually, like every year, or every couple of months. Some counties actually have them every like bi-weekly. So there's always an auction to be had. So that's not even a big deal. A lot of times you will have to go in person to these auctions. They are starting to kind of adjust to having some more online sales. which is what I do. I actually purchase a lot of properties in Florida because I don't have to be there. Can literally just like buy properties online in my pajamas, and it's awesome. So yeah, so you can really just do that from anywhere. So when you find the auction, a couple of things you want to familiarize yourself. You want to familiarize yourself with the rules, know what's going on. So again, is there a deposit? When do the monies have to be in after I've placed my bid and I've won my bid? Where's the address? Where am I going to go? That's kind of a big deal. Easier said than done. A lot of times, simultaneously, there will be multiple auctions going on at the courthouse that day. So there'll be like foreclosure groups, there'll be the tax sale groups, just a lot of things going on. So I would usually suggest people, especially if it's something that's local that they plan on going to, go ahead and go to the courthouse and familiarize yourself with the process before you start bidding. So at least you know you're in the right circle, because it can go really quickly and nobody's really going to tell you any information. You kind of just have to, keep your ear out as to what's going on. But it's an exciting process. Don't be scared. You may have to register. Sometimes you can just show up. Sometimes they do require you to register ahead of time. So again, just read over the rules, no big deal, and get your funds together. I can't express this enough, but it's one of those things where you're not going to be able to just be like, oh, well, let me pay you back in 30 days or 2 months or whatever. No, if you're bidding and you have won that bid, you need to be prepared to pay for that auction that day. Sometimes by the next day, but very seldom. Usually it's the day of. So you want to make sure that whatever it is that you're ready to bid on, that you already have that liquid. You're not going to have an opportunity to be moving funds around. Like, you're not going to have time for that. So if you're not ready that day, then just wait until the next one. It's no big deal. A big question too, a lot of people ask is, how much money do I need to start? Daz entitled this, get a property for 10K or less. All my properties that I got, well, I won't say all my properties. The first several properties I got, I paid around $4,000, give or take. Not a lot of money. That's like a stimulus check that you got back. So imagine that you're investing your stimulus check or, your IRS tax return money or whatever into properties instead of just paying all your bills off, and now you're left with nothing, right? At least now you're investing it and you have a return. So I usually recommend, although the back taxes, you can get stuff for $900, $800, $100, $50 even. But keep in mind that the lower, that price is, also probably the lower that property value is. So I usually try to stay with something like 1,000 and above. And so I usually recommend about $3 or $4 grand to start. Just an opinion. You can start with whatever you want. So this is an example or a sample site. This is one that I use quite often. It's lead.realtaxdeed.com. I don't know if somebody wants to put it in the chat. But I really love this site. This is for Florida. This is the freebie, guys. This is a freebie, by the way.
A freebie?
Information.
That's a $500 tip right there, y'all.
I know, right? I just gave away for the free scheme. So this is a really awesome site. This is a third-party site called Real Foreclosed or Real Auction. They actually have a bunch of different divisions. So now they are being a third-party site that is going through the counties and is being authorized to sell on behalf of the counties. So I love this because this is the online auction site. It's so freaking awesome. So although this is called lead.realtaxdeed.com, just pay attention to that part, that real tax deed, because this is actually going to differ by county. So I don't have the actual site pulled up. Obviously, this is just a screenshot, but if you were to go here on select website, it would be a drop-down menu, and you'll actually be able to expand it to see all the counties in Florida. All the counties in Florida. It's so cool. And they also have other states as well, New Jersey, Colorado, and they're continuing to expand. So I would really encourage you guys to kind of play around with the site, play around with the FAQs. I said familiarize yourself with the auction, right? So that's where you're going to find out a lot of the information, the FAQs. And also, granted, this is a site and it's a third-party site, because I said it's by county, you're going to have to register for each individual county that you want to participate in. Okay. You're going to have to register for each individual county. So the sites may all look the same, but this prefix here, this Lee, it might be Miami-Dade or whatever other Hillsborough.realtaxd.com. This is going to change. So you're going to have to register for all those separately.
Fancy, did you see Ruthie's question?
I did not. I'm sorry. I'm not
Is it true after 3 years that they can come and claim their property back?
Is it true after 3 years they can come and claim their property back? So it depends on which state you are dealing with. So I would say, so if you're not familiar, what Ruthie is asking is what's called a redemption period. And so the redemption period is, so say you buy your property at the auction, the owner will have such, however amount of time, which is called redemption period, to actually buy that property back from you. So it's not really a lose-lose situation, because either you're going to end up with the property or you're going to end up with your money back plus interest, whatever that interest is. So no, it's not necessarily true that they have 3 years, because it's going to be based on location. Some places are 6 months, some places are 30 days, some places are 2 years, some places are 5 years. So I would encourage anybody that is getting into this, that if you are trying to flip, properties quickly, don't pick an area, don't pick a state where that time period, that redemption period is very long. 3 years is a little too long for me. But
or if I can jump in, if you are planning on holding, you need to take into account what the interest rate is, because if you're in an area where inflation is going and you're like, you know what, I know inflation's at 12%, and this property, if they did buy it back from me, I'm only going to make 10%, you're going to take a loss. So be careful, because inflation is really, really high right now.
Thank you for that, Mark.
That's great.
Not only that are you going to take loss for that, but also from there on out, you're going to be responsible for the taxes until you officially get that deed. So if you have to pay taxes on it first year, second year, third year, right, you're continuously losing money, because one caveat with these tax sales, you're not allowed to move in or do anything to them. You cannot do anything to them. You do not officially own this property at this juncture. You are putting yourself in line to own it, and you are putting yourself to officially get that deed. And I'll, kind of briefly touch on that process a little bit. But yeah, as soon as you buy it from the auction, you don't go to that property and say, oh, let me go start changing the locks on the door. No. You have that redemption period, which is that period when that owner can buy it back. And then after that has expired, then you can start, making whatever changes, adjustments you want, because then it is your property at that point.
Omina, yeah, great question. Omina's got another question. Is there a fee to register, and do you need to have an address in those states?
Is there a fee to register? Some places there is a fee. Again, this is going to be county specific. Might be $25, might be $250, might be a part of your deposit, whatever they require. I also don't recommend going somewhere where you have to register and pay some money unless you just are for sure confident that you're either one, going to get a property there, or sorry, this thought just left out, or you're for sure that you're going to make your money back, because it's not going to be refundable a lot of time. So I wouldn't recommend that to start off with. There's a lot of places where you can go completely free. And the second part of that question, do you need an address in those states? Not usually. Again, like I said, I purchased properties in Florida. I use my Georgia address. They send me checks here. So the only time I see people do this, or see counties do this, is when they kind of get irritated that so many investors will come into, the area and buy up the property, and they want to just have it so that local individuals or people local to the state will get it. But that's not, typical. So no, you don't need a local address.
One of the ways you can get around that is by incorporating in the county that you want to do your business. Set up a little LLC right there in the state, and put, get a registered agent in that county, and then they don't know any different. One of the things I think because there's a lot of people on the call who have been to regular auctions, and I think they may be going, look, I go to an auction and get a good deal too, but $10,000, that's way too good of a deal. How come someone's going to buy this? I'm used to seeing, $100,000 on a $200,000 property is awesome. I buy that all day, but $10,000, how come that is?
How come? Those are the rules. That's all I can say. I mean, it's just one of those crazy loopholes, I don't know. I won't say I don't know how it works, because I do it, but it's just one of those things where I guess because the county consistently has to collect revenue. And when those owners are no longer contributing to the county and they're no longer paying taxes, they're losing money on revenue. So the county just wants to get their money back. That's all that they want.
So
So they're willing to.
they're not actually putting the minimum value at the value of the property. They're putting it. Are you saying they're putting it at the delinquent taxes?
Yes, yes.
Aha, there
So
we
at the
go.
auction, the starting base price is the delinquent taxes, and then whatever fees, the county may add on top of that just for having to go through the process of, whatever administrative stuff. But yeah, exactly. So the delinquent taxes is what they want, and so that's what they're setting the price at.
Wow. So if I buy one of these and I got this, I can't move in until the redemption period's complete. That's cool. Can I sell the right to own before the redemption period?
Sell the right to own, like transfer your rights
Right.
to someone else. Um, that's a great question. I'm not sure. I've never really had that experience. I know wholesalers do that a lot.
Right.
So I guess I can't see why you couldn't. I mean, it's probably just a matter of paperwork. Um, so yeah, that's a great question. I could look into that.
Well, I was just wondering if that were the case, because theoretically, if you can't move into it, but somebody else is like, "Oh, I really love that property," and you're like, "Shoot, I got another 6 months on this. Sure, I'll give it to you."
Right, right, right.
If nobody cares, nobody cares, because you're not actually holding the deed, right? You're holding the right to have the deed.
Correct. Correct. Yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
I think that would just be mainly up to the buyer. Again, if they're okay with that, then go for it. I mean, a lot of buyers are willing to work out all types of creative solutions.
And I want to make sure that, because I remember when I was first learning about this, it took me forever to figure this out. If you are clear about what she's talking about, if you're like, "Oh yeah, I'm totally on board. I totally understand how a tax lien works and why these are to sale," put a 1 in the chat box. If you're like, "Man, I'm so lost. I don't even know what the woods look like," put a 0 in the chat box. Okay, so nobody left behind. This is
I guess
such a
you can be
great
the
opportunity.
least bit surprised if you're lost because I talk really fast
Yeah.
and I'm
Well,
just
this is complex stuff. This is not like go buy a house and go live in it. This is different. So, but with nobody left behind, this is such a great opportunity. We're going to have her back next week because we're going to talk about some real specific things on how you can get involved. But right now, it's kind of overview, and we don't want anybody going, "Man, I don't know what she was talking about." Okay, so far, it's on you if you didn't put a 0 in there. We're moving forward. Thank you. Thank you.
totally on you. I'm going to presume that you're an expert at this and then you can teach class next week.
There we go.
All right. So step 2, do your research. With any investment that you do, I implore you to do your research. Now, your research is really just going to depend on how do I want to say? It can be as extensive or not as extensive as you need it to be. And that just depends on, what you're doing. So again, if it's, a bigger, project, something that you're paying a lot more money on, I'm going to say, hey, do a lot of research. If it's something that you're paying like $500 on, then you may just be like, whatever. But some of us don't even have whatever money to spend. So you may still do your research. So research just consists of, is it something that you would even want for yourself? If you wouldn't buy it for yourself, do you think somebody else wants it? Now, granted, there are properties that I buy that it's not necessarily that I'm going to get for myself, but, I can see the potential in it, right? I can see like, oh, okay, here's a piece of land. It's all cleared out. If I were a developer, I would slap a house on there, right? But if you see that this is, I don't know, some swamp land or I mean, I don't know what you're going to do with it. I mean, maybe you have different vision than I do. Maybe you have gators and you want them to go somewhere. I don't know. Actually, in Florida, interestingly enough, there are protected species like turtles and owls and whatever, and they actually need what do you call it? Wildlife habitat sanctuaries, for them to go, and people actually pay for them to go there. So again, hey, however you see fit, to do this. But the important things is just make sure that that when you're flipping it, it makes sense. So don't get some tiny piece of property of like 0.0001 of an acre, an easement where it's just got utility lines on it and it's not an actual property. So my point is sometimes we get so excited, about the auction, and our you know, our hormones are flying, that we don't even get, you know, get the opportunity to really just look into like what this is. So there's always GIS maps that you can pull up and look at it. Google Maps, pull up the address, put it in there. Just, you know, just kind of do a street view. Just walk around. Oh, okay, here's that. There's a store right there. Like, exactly. Like, just be exactly how you would be if you were driving there in person, especially if you're not there locally, buying it locally. See if there's any potential issues, rat infestations. See if there's a bunch of cars there that people are leaving there, like it's a hoarder's house. If it, I don't know, whatever issues. And again, what's the issue to you may not be an issue to somebody else. So hoarders, you know, some people love that stuff. They love going in there trashing and doing rehab, whatever the case may be. So I'm not saying, you know, don't go for problem houses, because technically a lot of these, let's be perfectly honest, a lot of these may be problem houses because they've been sitting on the market for so long, because they've been, you know, again, they haven't been paid. And that could be something as simple as a person, you know, is deceased, and, you know, the heirs don't want the property, don't deal with it. Maybe they don't even know about it. And so it's just been sitting there. One time I bought a property and I don't know how long it was running, but the water was running. Like, I think a pipe had burst. And so, I mean, the whole, what do you call it? The ceiling caved in, all of the cabinetry and whatever I had to take out. I mean, it was molded. Like, it was cray cray. It was absolutely cray cray. But guess what? Somebody was willing to come in and rehab it. So again, whatever. All right, do your research. Step 3, buy your property. Okay, so you're going to go to the auction site. If you happen to use the one that I do, great. If not, again, go down to the courthouse, maybe talk to whoever's responsible, maybe the tax commissioner's office or the tax assessor's office, whoever's running the auction, and see if there's any, you know, thing you need to do. A lot of them are friendly, especially in like really small towns. So I would suggest, if there's an email list or whatever, see, hey, can I get an email list for the tax sales? Because they're not always posting them on the website. And sometimes they will happily just email you the list for free. Some places they will charge you for a list. So again, I don't suggest you go into this initially, you know, already paying for a bunch of things, paying for registration, paying for a list, when a lot of this information is free out here. Okay. You're going to want to wire your funds, or mail a check to the county, whatever you got to do. Again, there's some prep work that needs to be done for that. So make sure that, you know, your banks are linked and all that. So I would suggest, you know, you're doing that a minimum a week out to make sure that your money gets there. And I don't even suggest, going back to the research, I don't even really go into an auction until I've done my research, maybe at least a month out. That's just my personal opinion. Now it probably depends on how many properties are on, you know, that list. You know, some auctions, they might have 2 properties on the list. Some might have hundreds of properties on the list. So it just really depends on how, you know, much research you have to do. But I usually, you know, give myself about a month to prep, go through the entire list, go through the maps, go through, you know, the descriptions, and just really just get an idea of, you know, what I want to pick. You know, this is not throw a dart at the wall and just hope something lands. This is not that. Although I know plenty of investors that go to the auction and do that. Not a suggestion. And then wait on your deed. So this is just an example of something I did. How recent was this? 2020. I have purchased a deed. This was in Cape Coral. I also want to clarify one more thing. There's a difference between tax deeds and tax liens. I'm not going to get into a whole description, but I did say purchase a deed because in Florida, I think they're considered a hybrid state actually. But if you purchase a deed, you will get the deed. If you purchase a lien, you will get an interest in the property. You will collect interest off of the money that you use to pay your taxes on it. Okay, so I was actually getting a deed property for $3,900. That's how much I purchased it for. Okay, notice the opening bid was only $2,210 though. Okay, so that is what the back taxes were. So when Mark was saying, can you get it for something less than 10,000? Yes, absolutely. What drives it up is the auction. That's where, you know, you kind of want that extra cushion money, because you may look in there, you know, on the list and get all starry eyed, like, oh, I can get something for 2,000 and 3,000 and 4,000. And you can, especially if, there's no competition, but expect some competition. So have, some cushion money. I think there's some more questions in the chat.
We've been handling them. I'll let you know if there's something they got to point at you.
Okay, cool. All right, so that was that. What else? I think I was just showing my receipt since I said that in the beginning, like, yeah, this is from my real email, guys. It's a little bit small, but it was just showing that how much the bid was. It was $3,900, and then there was a couple of fees they added on, very minuscule. Document stamps $28, recording fee was $37. So altogether, I paid $39.65. Not bad at all. And then I actually had to put a deposit down, so that's why that came out of there. But the deposit is fully refundable, so that's not even a big deal. Registration fee may not be refundable. Okay, let me make sure I'm clear on that. Registration fee may not be refundable, but a deposit, that's usually going to go towards your property, and or if you don't get the property, you're usually going to give it back to you. But read your rules just to clarify.
They're asking, Fancy, they're asking, do you actually physically go to inspect the property?
If I can. So recently I was looking at some auctions in Georgia because that's where I'm at. And I did actually do some drive-bys. I did some drive-bys. Now, when you say inspect it, again, you cannot go into these properties. So that is kind of like, a little bit of a drawback. Even with foreclosures and short sales, you still may be able to have access to the properties, or a realtor may let you in. Here, you cannot go on there. It'll be a form of trespassing. Now, I don't want to tell you what to do or what not to do. I'm not saying I haven't ever walked around a property or ever, walked inside. I'm telling you, don't do it. Okay. But, to each his own. If you're feeling adventurous, go for it. But if cops come, don't say I didn't warn you. So, yeah, you can't really do an inspection. So I would suggest you do a drive-by, familiarize yourself with the neighborhood, and just get an idea of what it looks like. That drive-by will probably save a lot of time and headache as far as your purchases are concerned. I can't say how much it cuts down on my list. Once if I can't do a drive-by, then I'm Google mapping. I'm taking my little man and I'm walking down the street and I'm looking around and I'm moving my camera around. And that gives me a pretty good idea as well. But I can't tell you how many times that will save you. Because just by looking, at a an aerial view of your parcel, that's not really enough. Again, you don't know what the neighbors are like or what that property is like, presently. They could have given you a photo. Sometimes they give you photos online. It could be from 2008. And now that house is not there anymore. It's burnt down.
What?
So yeah, crazy. So, or been demoed, whatever the case may be. So yeah, it's really important if you can inspect it. So I don't want to say I don't recommend doing online right away. I really do think it's awesome. I just think that you need to explore a lot more tools if you're going to do it online and you're not there physically. One of my mentors suggested hiring, somebody like, I don't know, off Craigslist or what is it, TaskRabbit, to, drive by and send you pictures. So if you can't do that, hire somebody to do it for you. All right, step 4, you're going to ready your property for sale. So you're going to clean up your title, get a realtor, advertise. You don't necessarily have to do all these things. Notice in the asterisk says all processes are not mandatory. Clean up your title. You can sell this property to someone else without the title cleaned up. So I liken this process to, say, if you have a car and you have a lemon, right? If it's a lemon, it's or like a salvage title, it's kind of hard to sell it without some type of cleanup work. Okay. So somebody kind of has to inspect it and make sure it's okay. But for this process, it's not so much that they're inspecting the property. They just want to inspect the chain of title of ownership. They want to make sure that it passed from Mark to Dazzle to Fancy and it passed properly. If it didn't, then that's going to be an issue. Okay. So again, you can sell it without this, but it's going to be very, very hard to sell it without it. And I'll get into that in a little bit, just a quick little blurb of who I use. A realtor. I'm very cheap, y'all. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm trying to get out of my cheapness and start delegating more. But I used a realtor last time and they did nothing for me.
All real. Here's the facts, y'all, and you've heard me say it on Legacy Ascending. All realtors do is mess up your deal. That's all they do. They do the paperwork, but you can hire an attorney for that for a quarter of the price, and they don't touch your deal. If you're doing commercial real estate, or even like I'm telling you, if use a realtor once or twice, and then say to them, "Listen, we can work together, but I'm only going to pay you 1%," and see what they do. If they balk and go, "Oh, how dare you!" Move on.
Well, see, Mark said it. Look, I wasn't even trying to give them a bad rep. I'm like, I'm sure they're great at something.
And if you're a real estate agent, if you're on this call or listening to it, listen, I don't apologize, because you're doing a great service. But just think about this. If you found an investor, and that investor was doing one property every month, one $250,000 property every month, and you said, "Listen, I'm going to do you right. I'm just going to charge you 1% on my end." How much money would you make over the 5% or the 3 or the 2.5% you're getting on the residential guys that are buying a property once every 5 years? So the real estate agents that don't understand that the way you make money is working with, and when I say working with, partnering with people like Fancy, that's half the problem.
Yeah, I'm like, if you guys would just funnel, the buyers to me.
Right. You can work all day, make money coming and going.
You know what I mean? I'm like, let me just shoot out a quick, email blast, and hey, everybody wins. So again, I didn't have, like I said, the best experience, but I'm also very hands-on. And I mean, I've done this entire process top to bottom my entire self. So I've actually done a quiet title. That's where you have to go to the courthouse and go have it cleaned up. But I don't even do that anymore because it takes way too long. And I actually use a title company that specializes in tax sales. So that's what I use right now.
And let me say this, just some of you are on the chat are saying you want to be wholesalers. You know who the best real estate agents are? Wholesalers. You know why? Because they had to put up real money to sell your property. And that's going to expire in 30 days, 90 days, 6 months, a year. And if they don't sell your house, they lose their money. How great would it be if a real estate agent had to put up 25 grand to sell your house? Man, they would be on it, y'all. But it ain't that way. So that's all I'm saying. You want to find somebody to really sell your house, make them put up some money. See what happens then. All right. Sorry, I'm interrupting. I'm on my high horse here about this. I'm trying to sell my own house right now. And I'm like, this is crazy, y'all. Forget it.
You got a cousin or a family member that's hit hard times, and you're like, hey, hey, you sell this house for me, you get on Facebook Marketplace, somebody's good with social media or whatever, and then give them a cut, whatever, done. So yeah, it doesn't have to be quote unquote professional. It's not that serious. Let's see what else. Oh, okay. So I was sharing with you one of the people that I use. They're called Tax Title Services. And so I think this little blurb, what is this about? Oh, I was just showing that what the fees are kind of like. You can go on their website. Let's see. Yeah, I put it there. You can go on their website and they will tell you up here in the price schedule, right, how much it is. Again, it is going to vary by state. It's going to vary by size and or valuation of the property. And that's okay. But they've been giving me a discount. So, because I've been buying land, recently, and it hasn't been, super huge. So, maybe if you drop my name or, do some business with me, maybe I can get you the same discount. Who knows? But yeah, so I've only had to pay like $1,200 for my most recent couple of ones. But originally for Florida, it's like $1,950. So let me give you a quick explanation what they do. So basically, like I said, they're going to do like a title search, make sure that chain of title is consistent, make sure it passed from hand to hand properly, and then they will pass it off into a title company. So they're not an actual title company. They're just people that research the title. And they're going to pass it off to a title company. The title company is going to do all your paperwork, and they'll say, hey, whenever you're ready to get a certificate, for your deed to make sure that it's good, we'll give you the paperwork for that. Let us know when you have a buyer, present us with the contract, and then we will, pretty much ready everything for sale. So your title company and their attorney or whoever, they got working for them will work out all the paperwork, you sign, and it's pretty easy after that. So taxtitleservices.com. Another freebie
$500 value right here. Another $500 value. Check
$1,000
this
I
out.
just gave out, at the very least. Chicago Title is the title company. Notice they have different locations: Florida, Georgia, South Carolina. So if they're not in these locations, again, I haven't done everywhere. That's why I say I'm not an expert. I haven't done everywhere. But they may just be a different title company in, I don't know, say West Virginia or whatever, because that's not on this list. $500. We're at the $1,500 right now, you people.
Boom.
So this was just confirmation of what I just said, that you will have 6 months from this date to purchase your owner's title policy before the tax deed certification expires. So it was just, reminder that you're going to pay this amount. You got 6 months for it to be valid. Otherwise, you're going to have to start this process all over again. So you don't want that. So you really want to try to sell that property within that time frame. Advertise. Again, you don't need a professional. Yes, this is a Craigslist ad. Yes, I do post my property on Craigslist. I know some people are like, ew, like Craigslist is for like pedophiles and other weirdos, but people buy property on here. They really do. Obviously you need to weed out some folks. Every text message you get is not going to be a viable buyer. But I've created huge buyers list off Craigslist. So don't, think that that's not a viable option. But I have also posted on Zillow. Uh-oh, what happened? Where's my slides, Mark?
I don't know.
Okay,
We're still seeing.
So I also posted on Zillow. Again, you're gonna get all types of solicitations from different realtors or brokers or whatever. Like, hey, I can post it for you and put it on the MLS and put it on all the sites. That's cool. You're gonna pay for it. So again, the last couple of ones I literally put on Craigslist and Zillow, and that was it. And I got, way more interest than I needed. So step 5, you're going to secure your buyer. So kind of like I just said, follow up with all your leads. There's no purpose in you selling and you're not going to answer the phone if they're calling you or answer your emails. There is going to be, this back and forth dance that you're doing, like, oh, 15,000, oh, 20,000, oh, 3,000, whatever. Like, dance with them, dance.
And one of the
That's
things
all
you all should know is that if you do get a tax sale like this and you're ready to put it on the market, you probably should talk to Daz and I, because we do have a large, a pretty large bandwidth or a organization of buyers. In fact, we had one of our buyers just hop on the call to come watch you, Fancy. So just reach out.
Can't look. I want to sell one of my properties right now. Good to know.
That's right.
So you're going to get your contracts together. Normally you don't have to do this. Again, they usually already have some contracts written up, and again, you're just usually just signing. I do think it's important for you to know, because there are some people that are starting off in this just like you are, and they might be new wholesalers or whatever, and so maybe they don't have a contract. So it'd be cool to be like, hey, no worries, I got a contract for you. Negotiate. I already said that. So basically I was just showing a snippet of one of my properties. Notice how many people looked at this thing. 602 people, 602 views. That was just on Zillow. So again, you don't have to post it everywhere. I do think it's cool, just to kind of get, a wide audience to look at your stuff, especially if you're trying to sell quickly. But at the end of the day, you're only going to need one buyer. So 602, I think I can get one buyer out of there. If I can't, then I'm doing something wrong. Sample contract agreement, yada, yada, yada. Step 6, seal the deal, follow up the buyer, follow up the title company, follow instructions. Basically, they're going to be back and forth and with you. Hey, Fancy, we need you to get this notarized. Hey, we need you to look over the settlement statement, yada, yada, yada. Just follow instructions. Finalize all your paperwork. I'm rushing through to the end because Mark said I got an hour and I'm talking too much, or actually less than an hour. This was just a sample settlement statement that I got recently. Just
You're doing
showing
fine.
you. Great. Okay, cool. Showing you that what I sold it for. And then there are other, fees that will come out of that. And I'm just showing you guys just so you're not completely blindsided. you may not know every single fee that is going to happen, right? But you can kind of just get a general idea. That's why when I say invest, just have that cushion. So again, if I said come in with 10K and you invested 4K or 5 or 6, you still have that extra 4K to play with some of these fees, if that makes any sense. Now, some of these fees aren't even going to come out until the closing. So one, I won't even call it a trick. Again, everything I'm saying, I don't necessarily suggest you do, but it is something I've done before. So if you notice here, this is the taxes. So sometimes I will not pay the taxes after I buy the property. Remember I said you got to keep up the taxes 1, 2, 3 years. But in Florida, because you get the property right then and there, what's my point? And I know that I was going to sell it quickly. Then I just waited until closing. And I said, you know what, instead of me paying for taxes up front, you can just take it out of closing costs. That makes any sense. Okay.
And they're good with that because that'll be in the contract of title companies. So no one thinks she's skipping out on taxes because it's like, well, when it closes, because if it doesn't close, she's not going to have to pay taxes anyway because she ain't going to have the right to the title.
Right. Well, you're still going to have to pay taxes on it because you're going to.
Even if your escrow doesn't close?
Oh, you're talking about once you get to the table?
Yeah, like you're saying, I don't pay taxes until close.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what am I hearing you right?
Yeah, maybe, or I don't know if I'm hearing
okay.
you right. So your property that you get at the tax sale, right? You've already paid the delinquent taxes, so that's done.
Yeah.
But going forward, it has new taxes, right? For the year.
You're talking about during the redemption period.
Yes. So anytime after you've got that property, or purchased, anytime you pay those back taxes and you say, hey, you won the bid, going forward, you're responsible for all taxes going forward.
So when you say you don't pay taxes until, are you saying you don't pay them until when?
I'm saying I don't pay them until I go to the closing table.
Closing, that's what's confusing me. So closing like at the end of the redemption period.
Yes. So right.
Okay.
So once I'm ready to sell this property, the redemption period is over with, and I'm ready to sell this property, I have my deed and I'm ready to sell it, then yes, now I'm saying, hey, I didn't pay the taxes this year. Or for here, it was just from January to June. And so I'm responsible for that portion. And the buyer would be responsible for, the rest of the year because they'll.
I see. You mean actually you're at the sale of your property. I see. I'm with you now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. After the redemption period, you've done whatever. You've taken possession of the deed. You've rehabbed it or fixed the foundation, or you didn't do anything. Whatever that is, you found a buyer. They love it. They want it, and now you're cashing out. And as long as the county is good with you holding it that long, and by the way, I will tell you guys. Some of you know that I prepay my taxes on my property, my county property, so the bank can never foreclose. We'll talk about that later. But they don't like it when you play those games. But if you're gonna do those games, it's a really good idea to make friends with the county tax clerk. Mm-hmm. And her name's Phyllis in my county. She's a very sweet old lady. Yeah. And so it's good to know those folks, because then when something goes wrong, they'll call you like, Mark, can you? Oh, I didn't know. Okay.
Yeah, I'm super friendly with people at the courthouse. Sometimes I bring them like donuts and Chick-fil-A.
That's right.
Like, you're the friendliest person ever. I'm like, I'm just.
It's not a bribe if you're just being friendly, y'all.
But yeah, seriously, like get to know them, get to know their names. So yeah, so the taxes. Now here's the tricky part, right? You just purchased a property for delinquent taxes. Do not play this game, like Mark said, and extend this out, and now not pay the taxes going forward, and then end up in the same position as the other owner. So now your property is going to go to the tax sale. So again, I don't suggest you do this for a long time, just if you feel like you're just about to, get ready to sell it. So like I said, this only happened for about 5 to 6 months. Do not do this for like 1 to 2 years. Now you're going to be eligible to go into the next auction, if that makes any sense. All right, collect your check. These are just receipts. Pew, 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 pew. That's all. Just wanted to show you that I actually did it in real life. And try not to spend it all in one place. And get ready for your next deal.
So
And I think
Fancy,
that's
this is amazing. So there's going to be two kinds of people. Well, there's three kinds of people. The first kind of like, nah, I'm not interested in this, but thank you so much. Fine, thank you, thank you. The second kind of person that's on this call is going, man, I got to do this, but that's a lot of information. Wow. Will you, without giving specifics, be offering classes, packages? What are you going to offer for people that want to learn how to do it?
I mean, how bad do you want it?
Well, I got to do it. We got to do it. I know I've been through Mark and Daz's funding program. I got myself $50,000. Do you think I could participate?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I definitely coming through the pipeline, have some courses. I do want to do some training programs where I'm doing consulting with you all, and we'll kind of like handhold you literally from beginning to end and walk you through the process. And I think too, as we've been talking about it, I may even, I don't think I can say this on the call, but maybe you kind of throw your money at me and then I kind of do it for you, you know.
Yeah, we wouldn't do that because that means that the SEC gives us a federally paid vacation. But we would incorporate use very legal, very legitimate corporate structures so that we don't have to deal with the blue sky laws and the Section 2 SEC stuff and that federally paid vacation. But everybody gets some really great opportunities, and that's one of the benefits of working with Daz and I and Fancy together, because we can do some pretty cool things. So if this is something that you're like I know Ruthie's all over this now. If you're like, you know what, I need to know more about this, we're going to have her back on with some more information next week. You can also reach out to Daz or I at business@legacyascending.com. That's our email, business@legacyascending.com, and say, hey, how do I know more? And we will continue a conversation with you about that. If somebody if they didn't have real estate experience, but they really wanted to start building generational wealth, doing a system that incorporated tax liens, what's the most important thing that they need to start thinking about now?
What's the most important thing they need to start thinking about now? I would say just researching and familiarizing yourself with the laws in your particular area, your particular county. That's always going to be your first step to even see if this is viable for you. And again, just to kind of correct a little nuance with what Mark said, tax liens. If you're doing tax liens, we are just going to put our money into almost like a money market account. You're going to put your money into, pay the county. And then, whenever that owner pays you back, you're going to get your money back plus interest. That's it. Okay. You're not getting any property. Not usually. There might be a process later on down the line if it, extends super far out and you may have an interest in it to foreclose, but usually if it is a tax lien state, that's all you're getting is money and interest. Okay. If it is a tax deed state, you're going to get the deed eventually. From Nate, I'm in Florida and I lost the last 2 tax deed sales.
What do you mean, Omina? What are you talking about from Nate? You can hop off mute if you want.
Hey, yeah, so Nate actually was trying to put it in the main chat, but it came to me probably because I was leaving a message at the same time that he was in. So that came from him. That's what he was pretty much just putting in the overall chat. But I do have 2 questions, and I'll wait till the end.
Okay.
We're about there. Hit it.
Okay. Oh, I can hit it?
Hit it.
So I wanted to ask Fancy back to when you were saying you have to pay the taxes. So is the goal to get these tax deeds or the property, but wait until the deed is like done, right? And then flip the property or flip it back and resell it so that you don't have to be bounded to paying off the rest of the taxes for the property? That is the question.
I mean, that depends on you. It depends on what you want to do. I mean, me personally, I get them for the purpose of flipping. If you want to buy and hold it and turn it into Airbnb, you know what I'm saying? Once it's your property, you know what I'm saying? You're responsible. So once it's your property, yeah, you're going to pay taxes from henceforth.
Right.
So, I mean, it's not a bad position to be in because now you own it and you own it at a fraction of the cost of what it would cost at market value. Yep. So there's nothing wrong with that. The only thing I'm saying is that if somebody's starting out at the very beginning and you're buying, I don't know, whatever property and his taxes are like way too high for you and you're just having a hard time, paying that, if you just want to put it off for a little bit until you sell it, you kind of have that option. But I wouldn't suggest, again, starting off, paying for taxes that are super high. I mean, you're going to get, I don't know, again, like Miami-Dade, and, your taxes annually might be, I don't know, $5,000-$6,000. Like that's a lot versus like a $95
Got
amount,
it.
you know.
No, that's actually a good point. So thank you for that. Cause
Good
I'm all
question.
about the Airbnb girl. I'm always like, yeah, Airbnbs, let's do it. But then
Yeah,
that would
once you
require,
own it, you own it. So I mean, even if you don't quote unquote own it, like I said, once you buy it at the tax sale, you're kind of like, I don't want to say like a proxy owner, if that kind of makes any sense. So it's like
Mhm.
you're kind of a proxy owner until you've officially cut ties with that other owner, but you're still responsible for those taxes going forward.
And see, that's why I would want to do my research to be in a state where the turnover would be 6 months instead of that 3-year mark that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Mark, this is for you.
Yep.
The second question is, you mentioned earlier about doing an LLC in that state to get the tax deeds, I think. And my question was, if you already have an existing LLC, can you use the same board members if you were setting up an LLC in a different state to get those tax deeds?
Absolutely. My suggestion to everybody is that if you are buying property of any kind in any state, that you set up an LLC in that state per property. That if you live in Nevada and you want to buy in Texas, that you don't try to make your LLC in Nevada buy a property in Texas. And while you can, it's not a good idea. You want to have an LLC. For me, I have, if I buy a property in Texas, I'm going to have an LLC that I've already made in Texas, and that's what's going to hold the assets there. That LLC will then be held by a property or held by another LLC or a C Corp in a state that has no state tax. So the property taxes or profits rather from the property, should there be any, go and pass through to a state where there ain't no state tax. So I don't have to pay that. But your members, as long as there is at least one U.S. citizen in your LLC, you can be same people over and over and over again. No, Delaware is not. No, Ruthie, not Delaware. Delaware has tax. Delaware is great if you're a bank. If you're a bank, man, Delaware is awesome. But otherwise, I don't recommend Delaware. I mean, unless you're doing, like I said, a lot of money motion, there's tax breaks there. But, your tax-free states, I can't remember all of them, but you're talking about Nevada, you're talking about Wyoming, you're talking about Tennessee, you're talking about, those are your primaries for that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how much time we got here, but with Nate, I don't know exactly. I don't know, again, if you want to come off mute. I lost the last 2 tax deed sales. I don't know if you're saying you lost the property, you didn't win the auction. I don't know if you want to elaborate.
You get hello?
Yep, you're there.
Hi.
Yeah, no, just at the auction. Like we do auctions here. It's an online auction, so you place your bid. Everybody place like their highest bid. Then I just didn't win the property.
Okay, so you're discouraged. You're not going to do it anymore.
I'm gonna do it again more. Like I just gotta get back out there and go drive around and see the property that's coming up for next month.
Yeah, so don't be discouraged. I mean, guess what? There's always somebody bigger and better than you. I mean, I went to an auction one time, and here's what I'll say. If anybody's scared of competition, other investors, because there will be like investor group, especially in bigger cities. Guess what? At the end of the day, people are gonna run out of money. Period. They're gonna run out of money, and I hate to say that I don't even want to call it. Let me not say that word. Folks that may not have as much money going in, if you wait and you be patient and you wait to the end, you might can get up some crumbs, right? Because now they've exhausted, they've come to get what they came to get, and now they're done for. Also, sometimes people don't even, again, they're just bidding, and it's this masculine infused environment. No offense to the guys on here, but they're just they're competitive. And so they don't even have the money. They just get caught up in, the excitement of the auction. So they won't have the money. And then when it's time to pay it, it'll literally have to go back to the auction. So sometimes if you wait later on in the day, they will list those for auction, or sometimes even the next day. So if you're
That's a $500 tip right there. Wait till the end of the day. Ooh.
the end of the day. So that's what I encourage you. Be patient. Anything that you do, you're not just gonna get it, the first time, or maybe you will. And again, if you're in, the bigger cities, there's way more competition. Go a little bit out further, the burbs, rural areas.
Michael was
Okay.
asking about what about buying paper?
Buying paper? What kind of paper?
Yeah, Michael, I'm not sure what you mean. We did cover before you cut on the call the possibility of buying the rights that somebody like you could potentially sell the right to somebody and have them buy that. But if that's what you mean, we kind of covered that. You can watch the video. Anybody else have any questions? We're a little over time. How long did it take? Oh, how long did it take for you to sell property? I don't know if I missed that part. That's from Ruthie.
That's what Ruth said. Yeah. It just depends. When I first started out, it might have took a year or two. But that's just, again, because I was new. And so now it might take me, 6 months or less. Really the key to selling is either having that buyer's network, making sure that you list your property properly. I did run into some snafus where, it was listed residential, on one site and commercial on another site. And these were government sites, by the way. This wasn't like, some little third party crazy site. And so I ran into an issue with that. I ran into an issue with having tortoises on my property. And again, they're an endangered species. So, as you learn, when you go and you grow, you really can cut that time down, considerably. Somebody in the chat said, if you buy something, sell it that same day. So, it can be done. But it is a process. Again, if you're not a realtor or marketing person or on social media, it might be a little curve, trying to get into that selling, if you're not really, a salesperson. But, you don't really have to sell, what I'm saying? You just got to put it out there. That's all.
Yep. And Michael, seconds and thirds, we're not really covering that kind of paper here on this call, but I appreciate your question. Anything else for our honored guest? Go ahead.
I have a question. For Fancy with what you just said. So Fancy, what is the appeal if you have a property? Sometimes you're saying you see the property physically, other times you're not, because if it's not yours, if the deed hasn't completely gone through, you can't go in. So how do you resell something that maybe you've not seen, and what's the appeal to get another buyer to come in and purchase it at a higher price than what you just got it for?
The appeal is they're getting it so much cheaper than what they would get for market value. So if everybody was doing what I was doing, then they would do it. If you wanted to get, something at my price, then go to the auction, right? But everybody's not going to do that. Maybe they don't have the patience, maybe they don't have the time, they probably just want something that's already ready. And so a lot of times when you go to the auction, again, those back taxes are not what the property is actually valued at, so you're getting it for something incredibly lower than that. So already you're probably doubling, your profits, because you're purchasing it for a price that's already below market value. So that's the appeal. And again, for people that are rehabbing and whatever the case may be, they're going to pump so much money into this. And by the time they, turn this into, this outstanding property, it's going to be way, 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 way worth more than what, little peanuts they probably gave you. So everybody wins. The purpose is for there to be meat on the bone for everybody.
That's pretty awesome. That's awesome. Mark, I won't take up too much more of your time. I will be reaching out to Dazzle. This is awesome. And wow, Fancy. Blown away, boo. This was great.
Gratitude, love.
Absolutely. Ariel, no, not at all. You can buy it in the name of the LLC, just like a company would buy a property. Companies can buy residential or corporate or commercial, rather. Don't matter. Great question. Awesome, y'all. Well, thank you for your extra time. Fancy for hanging out with us a little bit longer. As you all know, if you don't have the money to do this, and we're not talking about a lot of money here, y'all. We're talking about around 10 grand as an entry to give you the cushion like she's talking about. Well, that is what we're all about. And if you haven't been on the call, if you haven't been on our calls in the past, if you're new, welcome, welcome. This has been a very special guest. For us, we're kind of taking out a new door on real estate in this new idea, which is, well, these houses are available, these properties, and they're not just houses. Sometimes they're apartment complexes, y'all. Sometimes they're other things, but this is how you get the funding. If you've got 685 or better, reach out to Daz or I, and basically it's 0% interest, 60-day grace period, 0% up to 22 months. Our average right now is about $50,000 for the folks who apply, and it goes up to 100. And this is just one of several levels of funding that we have available. And then just imagine if you could hook up 4 or 5 of these houses working with Fancy on money that ain't yours and money that you don't have to pay interest on. How would that be? If that's interesting to you, put a 3 in the chat box. Thank you, Fancy, for everything. And we're going to have her back with some more information next week. Daz, you have anything for the good folks?
Definitely make sure to come back, because there's always going to be a need for real estate. It's an evergreen industry. And I think it's just, this is like phenomenal to have like a low barrier entry, and you don't need 6 figures to play.
That's right. All right, y'all. If you've missed any part of this, Zoom renders this after a while. It's going to be up on our YouTube channel, which was in the chat box, in probably about an hour or so. And you can watch the rest of it, any part that you missed. All right, y'all. Thank you. And we'll see you next week. Happy New Year to everybody. Bye for now.
Blessings.
Peace.
Happy New Year. Thank you all so much. This is awesome.
You're welcome.